Good morning, everyone. Welcome into Southeastern 14. I'm Blaine Gilmer. This is your home for daily SEC sports coverage, and I handle football primarily. You got Chris Lee, Blake Lovell on the channel doing basketball, so they'll be handling all the stuff that Bruce Pearl and everybody has going on the Auburn basketball side of things. But today it is about how Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers can win the offseason and put themselves in position to really get things cranked up in year two of the Freeze era there. Finished 6-6 this year, and could have been easily with 8 wins, the way that they let a couple of those games go. So I think it could have looked a whole lot differently perception-wise. Everybody's going to be talking about New Mexico State, what happened there, things like that. But when you look at the Iron Bowl, when you look how close they were with Georgia, things like that is what I think you should focus on more with this Auburn team, especially with the roster that Hugh Freeze was saddled with. And we're going to talk about that and how they can improve that through high school recruiting that Hugh Freeze and his staff are working on very hard. And then also through the transfer portal, there are some updates that we need to talk about, some visits that are going on today, December 8th on a Friday as we release this episode here. So we need to talk about some of those. But we also, guys, before we get started into that, we need to talk about our partner over at betonline.ag. Guys, the holiday season is off and rolling. NFL is in full stride, and the NBA and NHL are in midseason form. BetOnline is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info. With the up-to-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, BetOnline is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, and not just the big four sports, guys. BetOnline has all the info available at your fingertips, whether it's desktop or mobile access at any time for almost any sport there is out there, from MMA to international soccer. Whatever it is that you're looking to get into, BetOnline can help you out there. Head to BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV, all caps, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we're going to start on the transfer portal side of things for Auburn, and there's a couple of key visits taking place this weekend for the Tigers, as Jerquan Scott, who is a offensive lineman, over 300 pounds, has played guard at Southern Miss. It can really move, has a good base, and is able to pull around on some of the pin and pull stuff, on the gap scheme stuff. Is strong enough to be a part of some of the zone based things as well. He's a guy that you really need to add depth on the offensive line if you're Auburn. That was part of the issue there for Auburn on the offensive and defensive lines of scrimmage. They need to add depth. They need to add pieces that they can have 6, 7, 8 bodies that are able to go in there and produce at a high level. Jerquan Scott has proven that he's a guy that is highly coveted. Ole Miss is after him. You've got other South Carolina, Vanderbilt, all these SEC schools are, coming knocking because they need to fortify their offensive line. And Jerquan Scott from Conference USA there with Southern Miss, able to provide that kind of depth, provide that kind of help. Like I said, a big body that can move, has strength, strikes people with his hands. So he is a guy that is visiting this weekend at Auburn, and that would be a big pickup if they were able to do that and help things out on the offensive line. Do want to mention that there's a guy named Easton Kitty out of North Dakota that he has not set a date to visit yet on the schedule, but it'll be interesting to see if they can bring him in, just kind of tuck that one away for Auburn. Robert Lewis, a wide receiver out of Georgia State, 70 catches, over 800 yards receiving this year, 7 touchdowns for Georgia State, a team in the Sun Belt that really kind of took a step forward and had a good year. Robert Lewis, number 1 right there in that picture. He is an explosive receiver, and he is trending towards Auburn and is visiting this weekend, visiting the Plains. And if there's one thing that we know about Auburn, it is that Hugh Freeze needs receivers in that offense like he needs oxygen to breathe. I mean, they need some talent influx at receiver. They certainly have that in the high school ranks coming in with what they're doing there. And we'll talk about that after we get through these transfers. But Robert Lewis, a guy who is already used to, hey, the college life, adjusted to playing, high level football, can come in right away and provide a spark. That is a huge need for Auburn at wide receiver, and Robert Lewis would be a great addition. Just kind of keep in mind he could become a Auburn Tiger sooner rather than later with him doing a visit this weekend to the Plains. Chris Paul is a linebacker from Arkansas that Auburn reached out to early once he entered into the portal, and December 15th through 17th, Chris Paul is scheduled to take a official visit to Auburn. Now that this would be big because Auburn, while they were very good on defense this year, I think Ron Roberts did a great job and held some of the better offenses in the country, particularly in some home games, to some outputs that were below their averages. Like I said, it's all about depth. It's all about having some experience there at that linebacker position. And they, at times when Austin Keys, went down, they got a little bit thin. But I think when you're talking about Chris Paul here, it would give you a proven commodity, somebody that knows how to play linebacker in the SEC. They're going to have to battle Lane Kiffin for this one, as Ole Miss is pushing hard. He's already visited Ole Miss this weekend, I believe, and then also Lane Kiffin has been out there to Fayetteville to meet with him. So they are going to get that crack at him here in about a week. And the closer it is to the end of the portal window, you get a visit, I think the better you have to like your chances. So we'll see how Hugh Freeze, Ron Roberts, and that Auburn defensive staff are able to convince Chris Paul and see if he needs to become a Auburn Tiger in his mind. So that'll be one to watch for sure. A big SEC target that's looking to stay in the SEC, it looks like. Jared Brown, a receiver from Coastal Carolina, coming in out of that Sun Belt Conference, much like Robert Lewis, a guy who could contribute right away, had over 50 catches, over 700 yards receiving for Coastal Carolina, a successful program, a guy that knows how to win. He's been there for the Chanticleers and made some plays. So it would be huge to be able to get a guy like a Robert Lewis, like a Jared Brown, to come in and contribute immediately. Like I said, not have to get used to the college lifestyle, not have to get used to, okay, here's my schedule, the demands of playing football at the next level, things of that nature that all high school incoming freshmen have to get used to, regardless of how talented they are. So I think that would be a huge pickup and a huge deal there. He's gonna be visiting on December 16th. He's also visiting Louisville and a couple other places as well. So there's going to be lots of people vying for Jared Brown, but he is going to be visiting Auburn later on this month, and that would be one that definitely, like I said, they need 3 or 4 receivers influx on top of what they're bringing in on the high school ranks. I'm telling you, it is a huge position of need and maybe the most glaring need on this Auburn team. Falling right in line with that, Will Sheppard is a guy that they're going to be interested in. Will Sheppard for Vanderbilt, a guy who can be that true X on the outside, a guy that can go up and win 50-50 balls, can go up and make the contested catches. He's a smart player, a good route runner, and just a dynamic receiver that I don't think got utilized heavily enough, got utilized in the correct manner at Vanderbilt. When you're talking about Will Sheppard, he's a guy that they've got to get on campus, got to get him over there for a visit. I think South Carolina is going to be interested. I think Mississippi State is going to be interested. Tulane is going to be interested. So there's lots of people that are going to be trying to utilize NIL dollars, utilize their opportunities that they have to try to bring Will Shepherd, a guy who has played a lot of SEC football, onto their roster. And he's a guy that I thought maybe could have went pro this year, but is electing to hit the portal instead and have one more year of college, and having that kind of veteran presence at the wide receiver position and add that kind of production in would be huge. So we'll see if Auburn can make a push with Will Shepherd. That would totally go a long way towards helping Auburn win the offseason, so to speak, if you could add that kind of veteran presence at wide receiver for Peyton Thorne. Because as of right now, guys, it doesn't look like Auburn is going to be pursuing a quarterback in the portal. You thought maybe, hey, when Grayson McCall got in for Coastal Carolina, they may reach out. There was rumblings early on about Cam Ward and things like that, but that looks like it's going in a totally different direction, bidding more, things like that, that Auburn's not really going to get involved in at the quarterback position. And right now, it looks like Auburn is content at quarterback with saying, all right, we're going to roll with Peyton Thorne. We got Robbie Ashford. We're going to go with, Walker White, who's going to come in at the high school ranks, but adding for whoever the quarterback is, adding this type of receiver would be huge for them. And then right along those lines, Xavier Thomas received an offer from Auburn as soon as he went into the portal, wide receiver from Mississippi State, a guy who is dynamic, can do a lot of different things. Quick twitch guy. He's a guy who is a guy that can make people miss in space, and just didn't get utilized a ton in Kevin Barbay's system as much as he needed to. Him and Tulu Griffin, all those guys over there at Mississippi State, I think were just underutilized this year, especially once Will Rogers went down. So Xavier Thomas is going to be a good addition for someone over there. But guys, the transfer portal stuff is, it's fluid. It's going to move fast, but those names are the ones that Auburn is kind of the most heavily involved in. I did want to throw out another couple of names that have just entered into the portal. Chris McClellan is a defensive lineman from Florida, the University of Florida, that is just entered the portal, and Auburn, it looks to get him on campus as well. Definitely adding depth along that defensive line, adding dynamic players that can just hold up against the run game and then get after the passer a little bit. Chris McClellan can do a little bit of both, so that would be a big pickup, and we'll see if they get more involved in that. And then, guys, Oregon State, with that program being formerly a Power 5 program with the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 having split up, and Oregon State it was kind of a game of musical chairs, and they got left without a chair. Jonathan Smith did a great job of that Oregon program and developed a lot of really good players, brought in a lot of really good players. But now, with them no longer having kind of a conference to be in, a lot of those players are leaving. Some of them are following Jonathan Smith to Michigan State, where he just took that job. But there are two defensive backs in Jermon McCoy and Achille Arnold that are very, very experienced, and Auburn has offered both of them. They need some depth. Listen, I could say that at every position pretty much, because Hugh Freeze inherited a roster from Brian Harsin that was just not up to par, not at the depth level that they needed to be able to bring things in. So if Auburn can win half of these battles, or win, 3 or 4 of these key battles that I've mentioned here in the transfer portal, that would help them go a long way. As I mentioned, Walker White earlier, the quarterback out of Little Rock, Arkansas, who had 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year, threw for over 3,000 yards. He's a guy that Hugh Freeze is very excited about. He has really helped be a leader in this high school class that Auburn has coming out in the class of 2024. Right now, currently ranked just outside the top 10, number 11 in the On3 rankings when it comes to the team rankings for Auburn. But that includes some 5-star wide receivers, some high caliber flips that they've done on both sides of the ball, flipping linebackers. Jamonta Waller from Florida, flipping linebackers. Linebacker Demarcus Riddick from Georgia earlier in this cycle. And then they flipped Perry Thompson from Alabama, a 5-star wide receiver that he is now going to be, heading to Auburn. There's some smoke that Alabama is trying to pull him back into the class, but nothing has been really substantiated at this point. Perry Thompson would not be an early enrollee. He's going to be a summer enrollee. So even more important to go out and get guys like potentially a Robert Lewis, a Jared Brown, a Will Shepherd, those kind of guys in the portal. Those are going to be huge. But they also have Cam Coleman, who they flipped from Texas A&M, that just went off in the state championship game there and had a viral clip of a 70-yard catch and run that he had in Bryant-Denny Stadium for the state championship game. It was, thought that Alabama would try to get in on him. Texas A&M landed him. Jimbo Fisher gets fired. That staff leaves. Auburn flips him. And listen, the addition of Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson to what Auburn has going on, plus what they could get out of the portal. The main thing that Auburn has to do is they have to maintain the guys they have right now, the commits that they have now. Like I said, with Waller, with Reddick, with Thompson, with Coleman, that would be huge for them. And then on top of that, there's a couple of key targets out there, a couple of guys that they're really trying to work hard after, another couple of 5-stars, and LJ McCray, who is in Auburn this weekend. He's committed to Florida. Big guy that can play all the way down to a 3 technique, or he can come out and play on the edge on the defensive side of the ball there. So just keep that in mind with LJ McCray. He's going to be in town this weekend. And then KJ Bolden, who is a safety out of Buford, Georgia. Hugh Freeze had a in-home visit with him. He's been committed to Florida State for a while, but Auburn has really impressed him on his visits where he's been there, and has an opportunity I think Auburn's really strong in the NIL game when it comes to the package that's being presented to KJ, and that's something that it's going to get every recruit's attention at this point in time. So if they were able to land one of those guys, either flip LJ McCray or flip KJ Bolden from Florida or Florida State respectively, that would be a huge addition and could really help Auburn win this offseason. Like I said, you get up into that top 10, well up into that top 10 on the high school recruiting ranks, and you're able to add some key transfers, and you're going to see an Auburn team that, like I said, they were very much closer, especially with an offense that was woefully just undermanned in terms of the receiver position and things like that, and what Hugh Freeze would really like to be able to do with his offense. And then you add all these pieces, and I think you go from year 1 to year 2 with Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery on that offensive side, adding some pieces on the offensive line, adding some ability to really get deeper into that RPO passing game, that they like to do things over there, and have some key playmakers added to the recipe. Man, I think you could have a exciting year 2 on the Plains if you are Auburn. So guys, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, tell us what you think about Auburn. But like I said, Robert Lewis, Jaquan Scott, LJ McCray, all these big names in Auburn this weekend. So you need to make sure you are like, subscribe, turn on notifications, everything about that to keep up with news. We cover all SEC sports, but wanted to dive into Auburn football and Auburn football recruiting today. Remember, we're presented by Bet Online. You can get all the information in the description below. Follow me on X using that BGilmer18. And like I said, thank you for tuning in. Do all that good stuff. Hit that like button now. It's free. Subscribe. It's free. Give your comments. That helps out the algorithm here. So for everyone at Southeastern 14, I'm Blaine Gilmer. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk more SEC sports with you next time right here on Southeastern 14.